A1 is to 4 demultiplexer selects 1 out of 4 outputs, Y0, Y1, Y2, Y3, depending on 2 select inputs, S0, S1, and forwards the single input, D, to the selected output. Since A1 is to n, demux has M, equal to, clink of, log of n to the base 2, select inputs, and here n equal to 4, M equal to, clink of, log of 4 to the base 2, equal to 2, and the logic equations are, Y0 equal to D and S0 bar and S1 bar, Y1 equal to D and S0 and S1 bar, Y2 equal to D and S0 bar and S1, Y3 equal to D and S0 and S1. The truth table of A1 is to 4 demultiplexer is shown, with 1 input D, 2 select inputs, S0, S1, and 4 outputs, Y0, Y1, Y2, and Y3. We see that, when S0 equal to 0 and S1 equal to 0, the outputs Y1, Y2, and Y3 are 0, the output Y0 follows the input D, if D is 0, Y0 is 0, if D is 1, Y0 is 1, when S0 equal to 1 and S1 equal to 0, the outputs Y0, Y2, and Y3 are 0, the output Y1 follows the input D, if D is 0, Y1 is 0, if D is 1, Y1 is 1, when S0 equal to 0 and S1 equal to 1, the outputs Y0, Y1, and Y3 are 0. The output Y2 follows the input D, if D is 0, Y2 is 0, if D is 1, Y2 is 1, when S0 equal to 1 and S1 equal to 1, the outputs Y0, Y1, and Y2 are 0, the output Y3 follows the input D, if D is 0, Y3 is 0, if D is 1, Y3 is 1. The figure shows A1 is to 4 demultiplexer symbol, with 1 input, D, 2 select inputs, S0, and S1, and 4 outputs, Y0, Y1, Y2, and Y3. We see that if we use 2, 1 is to 2 demultiplexers, we get 4 outputs as required, but we get 2 inputs, D1, and D2, instead of 1 input. If we use another demux before these 2 demultiplexers, we would effectively get A1 is to 4 demultiplexer. The select input for demux 1 is S1, for demux 2 is S0, and for demux 3 is S0. When S0 equal to 0, and S1 equal to 0, since S1 equal to 0, demux 1 forwards D input to output Y11, and output Y12 equal to 0, and since S0 equal to 0, demux 2 forwards D input to output Y0, and output Y1 equal to 0. Demux 3 outputs are Y2 equal to 0, and Y3 equal to 0, that is, D input is forwarded to output Y0, and all other outputs are 0. When S0 equal to 1, and S1 equal to 0, since S1 equal to 0, demux 1 forwards D input to output Y11, and output Y12 equal to 0, and since S0 equal to 1, demux 2 forwards D input to output Y1, and output Y0 equal to 0. Demux 3 outputs are Y2 equal to 0, and Y3 equal to 0, that is, D input is forwarded to output Y1 and all other outputs are 0. When S0 equal to 0, and S1 equal to 1, since S1 equal to 1, demux 1 forwards D input to output Y12, and output Y11 equal to 0, and since S0 equal to 0, demux 3 forwards D input to output Y2, and output Y3 equal to 0, demux 2 outputs are Y0 equal to 0, and Y1 equal to 0, that is, D input is forwarded to output Y2, and all other outputs are 0. When S0 equal to 1, and S1 equal to 1, since S1 equal to 1, demux 1 forwards D input to output Y12, and output Y11 equal to 0, and since S0 equal to 1, demux 3 forwards D input to output Y3, and output Y2 equal to 0, demux 2 outputs are Y0 equal to 0, and Y1 equal to 0, that is, D input is forwarded to output Y3, and all other outputs are 0. The figure shows A1 is to 4 demultiplexer using 3 1 is to 2 demultiplexers. Demux 1 has 1 input, D, 1 select input, S1, and 2 outputs, Y11 equal to S1 bar and D, and Y12 equal to S1 and D. Demux 2 has 1 input, Y11, first output of demux 1, 1 select input, S0, and 2 outputs, Y0 equal to S1 bar and S0 bar and D, and Y1 equal to S1 bar and S0 and D. Demux 3 has 1 input, Y12, second output of demux 1, 1 select input, S0, and 2 outputs, Y2 equal to S1 and S0 bar and D, and Y3 equal to S1 and S0 and D.